Hi there, welcome to Wyckoff Technical Analysis session for Algorand. If you're new to my sessions, here are the 3 key takeaways you can expect from my sessions. So let's begin with the Algorand weekly chart. So you see these orange tags and green tags. What are they? The orange ones are the accumulation cycle of Wyckoff, and we are currently going through a second, it's not second test, but like number 2 test after the sailing climax back in March. So we had the actual second test in terms of Wyckoff terminology in mid-June, and now we are at another test, a subsequent test after that one. Previously I said, there's 70% chance for the price to come down, and it has already happened, so I'm removing the percentage. Just that we don't know where or how low the test would be. It can end up being a spring, meaning it's at a lower point than the selling climax itself. So I'm putting it right over here because there are 2 things I'll cover in very shortly. So I just want to show, if you're new to these Wyckoff analysis or Wyckoff method, that's the spring I was talking about over here for what we're going through as of this moment. So you see the selling climax, the second test back in summer 2024, right? And then eventually in October, November time, that's where we had our spring, last year. Similar time. Right now, we have been accumulating at a higher level. So 1 key level higher than what we had back in 2003 and 2004. All right, those 2 were accumulating between the orange key level of 16 cents and the red key level of 10 cents. Currently, the accumulations happened above the orange key level and between the green key level of 24 cents. All right, so the gap or the breathing range is kind of similar between those 2. One is like 6 cents range, one is like 8 cents. And currently, if this downtrend continues, the thing that I want to mention to you just now is that for the past 8-9 weeks, we see continuous lower highs. If you look at this white dashed line that's coming down, we are still basically, or Algorand is still basically suppressed by this line. Okay, even though I've drawn a channel box here, it seems it's reacting more to this line rather than a box. So I just want to quickly check if I have this. I probably don't have this in the daily, so I can adjust it, because what seems to be happening is that is going through a rather steep, compared to my original box, a rather steep decline from that peak. So once we have this box, we can drop that white dashed line, and it will be easy for me to talk to you what's going on. So just putting in the center line as well. Remember, if you're new to this channel box or air hockey table concept, basically the price tends to bounce around 3 lines. The ceiling of the box, the bottom of the box, as well as the center line. So what's been happening, if you're looking at a candlestick chart, it may not be obvious to you, because when I draw the box, I need to see where the peaks have gone to. So that's where I take reference to draw the box, aligning the top edge, the ceiling, and the bottom. If I change it to the line chart, you see clearer what's happening, because it tends to, like I said, bounces off between 3 lines: bottom, center line, and ceiling. All right, that's exactly what it has been exhibiting. And this time, when we get closer to the middle of the month, this may bounce off from the ceiling, but more than that, that's actually a breakout time point that I've already shared in previous sessions. Because we have this upward trend line, this white dashed line over there. Alright, this line has started way back here, this spring, November 2024. And then we've got this selling climax and second test. That's how I have drawn the line. In the past 4 weeks, the price has dipped a little below the line. Not that it closes below it. And this week clearly seems to have tested somewhere way lower. So the question remains whether this line is still in effect. The way I see it, the price for this week's candle is still trying to climb above that line. And if that continues into next week, that's the breakout time point I mentioned. So by middle of the month, we're getting into this corner that the big guys, the whales, the composite man, is going to tell us, are they going to break outside of this downtrend, that started summer this year? Or is the downtrend going to continue and that we will eventually see a spring? Because we are already at this level. This level was where the selling climax and second test were. If this continues downwards, breaking the orange key level of 16 cents and come down to challenge this red key level and show us a spring there, which is possible, this trend has to continue. If it breaks, that means there's a potential for that to come up. So as of now, this I would say is like a 60% chance, because the buying volume isn't that crazy. So there was buying when the price dipped lower than the orange key level and pushes the price to where we are now. But this volume compared to what we had in mid-July was way different. So if this volume bar is like half of what we had in mid-July, I would have changed this to 40 below and 60 above, or even like 50-50. But now it seems it's not as strong of a buying, compared to these. This is still lower than what we had on Monday, October the 6th, that particular week. We know that was a crazy week, so I'm not taking a big reference of that week. Okay, so the big picture kind of changed a little, but then the downtrend still continues. So the green scenario, if you ask, is that we have gone through a very disappointing peak in July. That's the distribution instead of accumulation. So the orange ones, we're basically in the same accumulations since February this year. But the green ones basically saying or asking, have we actually gone through a distribution during summer? Because if we look further to the left, not the end of 2024, but here, December 2023 all the way into the first quarter of 2024, you'll see the peak back then was, it closed even lower than what we had in July this year. So that's why I was questioning, would this be the same kind of low level distribution as in late end of 2023, beginning of 2024, which is possible. So that's why I'm showing you the green tags as well, in case it really is a very short-lived distribution cycle that we have gone through. Alright, so a bit interesting for Algorand from this perspective. So I don't think there is anything to look at for the squeeze, because the trend that it has been going through, I can see already it won't be a squeeze. So usually it has to be more gradual, even if it's declining or ascending, or at best, traveling horizontal. So this period, very short horizontal period, brought together a squeeze, and that's why we have a swing afterwards. Previous periods, for Algorand, not much of a squeeze shown by the indicator, just a couple of times here and there. I think the shade is a bit dark, so let's try to adjust this. Yeah, let's bring this up a little so you can see the shades at the back. So that's what I was talking about. After the squeeze, if you're new to this indicator, you can either go down first before it comes up, and then the swing continues. Likewise for this one. Alright, so it doesn't always say which side goes first. Similarly, for the daily chart, we have gone through a squeeze just a couple of days back, and we are having this bigger swing happening. So similar to polka dot I just covered. Okay, we are seeing this kind of swing going on. So back to the daily Wyckoff tags. Hey team, GW5UW. Did today's price affect Doge path, or is it still possible that it will follow the same path as you last live? So Doge, I'll cover on Sunday. So let me get back to you in 2 days because I have to dedicate time to different projects. For Doge, similar to ICP, I know a lot of people from the that community is watching and actively participating in the discussions. So I'm assessing whether I'm going to cover 2 sessions as well. So hopefully that can keep the community up to date, based on the recent price actions. Because when I first started, Wyckoff, isn't something meant to be for day trading. This daily chart Wyckoff is because of a community request. So that's why I'm putting Wyckoff into daily, and it's not something easy to assess. Wyckoff, the composite man, the big guys, the whales, they plan for things in terms of weekly or monthly time frames. They take action daily, but their plan isn't on this short time window. So sorry, long answer to your question. I'll touch on it on Sunday, but then potential more frequent sessions will come. Thanks for asking. So here, the spring is already happening. So that 70% has already happened. What goes to that 70% then after we remove this? Subsequent horizontal tests. So there's still a chance for the price to go up this time for a sign of strength, but I wouldn't say it's let me just quickly check on the weekly here, because like I already mentioned multiple times, the weekly controls what's going to happen in the daily. If the ceiling, if it's not going to break above the ceiling, then this remains a lower chance. This volume here, it's not bad, but still average if we look across the past 14 days. So I'll keep this a 50-50 chance now. Okay, while we have already have the spring, it looks to me that's the case. All right. Just quickly check if I have missed anything. It's really tempting by looking back over here to move these across. So because of that October 10th incident, it has caused quite a bit of noise in the daily chart. So previously I put in the preliminary support and selling climax over here. it looks like it is that way, but then what happened over here seems to be, moving these tags over to the right hand side as well. But that's the tricky part in the daily chart. I'm not going to move them because that still work. So what I'm saying is, if you're trying to understand what I've been talking about, sorry about that. Sometimes it goes just too quickly in my head. So here, these two tags, the selling climax can potentially go through there. But then that means we have just 1 day to have the preliminary support as well as the selling climax. And then that immediately, the next 3 days, we've seen the automatic rally. It's not that it doesn't work. It still worked that way. So the second test was mid-October, and eventually we've got 2 subsequent tests before the spring. This works perfectly well as well. If I bring in this across, that's perfectly fine. I don't have to tag this after all these sign of weaknesses. This may have, this is for this, but there's no point to tag one more over here, even though we have seen lower level sign of weakness. Just not to do over tagging. We know the price is going down for the new accumulation cycle. Let's put it that way. Okay, so we have yet to see the sign of strength. That should come above this yellow key level of around 20 cents. Okay, if the price breaks above this ceiling as well as the yellow line, this would be confirmed. But as of now, it's a back test over here. Whether this can go past this white dashed line as well as the ceiling of this downward channel. So 2 resistance it has to go through. Okay, if it stays within this narrow wedge, November 12th, somewhere from now till then, in 5 days, that's going to be a potential breakout. Alright, because the price is now getting within that wedge. If I enlarge it, it's getting back towards where it was trading last week, or like last 2 weeks over there, except the past couple of days. Okay, it's now re-entering this wedge. So that's why I said in the next 5 days, if it continues to trade over here, it may go straight, breaking the downward channel. Just a possibility. Alright, that's why, okay, 50% sideways testing, 50% sign of strength. Alright, anything I've missed? I think I've touched on all the timing, the Wyckoff, the key levels. So that should be it for Algorand. Thanks for joining me. See you in the other session that I'm going to go live.